I would hope that my music gives the youth of our race dignity. Motorville Records is dedicated to uplifting black pride and dignity. So we are encouraging the rappers to get into the clean thinking of music and the clean understanding that we want our women and our children and our families to be respected. Therefore, we have to lift our minds in the culture of our songs. I am Aki Al-Hajj, and I thank you very much.
Welcome, Judge Mathis. Thanks for coming to share an important message with the Wayne County taxpayers.
Well, thank you for allowing me to help. You know, most of my life I was a resident of Wayne County, and so I'm here to help because Treasurer Shabri wants to work with Wayne County homeowners to keep families in their homes and prevent foreclosure.
If you're having trouble making your property tax payments, let us know. We have many resources to help.
Take the first step towards staying in your home by going down to the Wayne County Treasurer's office on the 5th floor of the International Building in Greektown.
Stop by today to learn more about our payment plans and especially the newly extended interest rate reduction program.
Already in the payment plan? It's important you stay in good standing.
Making property tax payments is now easier than ever. We have placed payment kiosks in right.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Amazing morning to you, rise and shine up and at it. We getting it together. I see you got my hair gone. We rolling. I know that you could be anywhere. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. You guys, hold on. I got him on the line, but I want to give his just introduction, so let me do that. Detroit City Honorable Councilman James Tate. Is this you on the line?
This is me on the line.
Wonderful. Hold on one second, sir, because I'm going to give your adequate introduction that is worthy of your vitae, if you don't mind. And then I'll bring you in. So hold on. Everyone, he is in the building. And let me just tell you, it is everything, because we are in a space right now, and I'm going to make it so that the Honorable Councilman can hear the conversation before I bring him in. Look here, everyone. It's an exciting time, and you're officially tuned into Cannabis, discussing the business of the cannabis industry, and it is imperative that we have these conversations. I promise you that at the end of this time together, you will be educated, enlightened, and empowered. Everyone, I would be remiss to ask us to take a moment of silence and personal reflection. We've lost the own great Toni Morrison, passed away. Bless her, her legacy. That is important to honor those who've come before us at 88 years of age. So we are honoring her and her legacy, of course, this morning. And then I want to, because I don't know if you all really understood the significance of yesterday. Of course, voting is always an opportunity, but on August 6th in 1965, that was some 54 years ago, that is when President Lyndon B. Johnson signed in the Voting Rights Act to give us the opportunity, specifically for black folk, African-American folk in this country, to be able to vote. And so I thought it was so fitting that on yesterday we were exercising our right in this great state of Michigan, 3 communities specific for the ordinance as it pertains to marijuana or cannabis. And then we have the pleasure of having him on the line this morning, the chief sponsor of the ordinance for the city of Detroit, Honorable Detroit City Councilman James Tate. Let me give you a little bit of his background, please. I would be remiss before we bring him on. Let me let you know that he was first elected to Detroit City Council in 2009. He was re-elected to represent District 1 in 2013. Before his work on City Council, he served as second deputy chief for the Detroit Police Department and as an Emmy Award-winning assignment editor at WHPR TV Channel 7. He's a graduate of Benedictine High School and Wayne State University. He has lived in District 1 his whole entire life. He is known for making the tough decisions when they have to be made and believes in accessible government. Councilman Tate consistently seeks ways to forge and cultivate neighborhood partnerships within his district. He hosts monthly meetings in District 1. He ensures that residents are up to speed on the latest issues that affect their lives. His bi-weekly satellite hours at the Motor City Java and Tea House further extend his reach into the community. He created the City for Detroit's only district-wide comprehensive online business directory that can be found at discoverd1.com. He's on the ground and on the run in District 1. I'd also let you know that he sits on such boards as the Zoological Society and Authority Health. He sits on the following city council standing committees: internal operations and planning and economic. He's a chair of the task force of Black male engagement. He's also the co-chair of My Brother's Keepers Challenge, and additionally, he's a member of Triumph Church, where he serves in the men's choir, the Men of Valor. And I believe, probably most importantly, he's a proud husband of Dr. Neutrina Watts.
Neutrina.
Neutrina Watts Tate. So I just think that is a fitting introduction. I hope that he agrees. Great, amazing morning to you, sir.
No, great, amazing morning to you as well. Thank you. Thank you. That guy's busy. Whoever you're talking about, that guy is busy.
Well, look, this guy is really busy. And let me just, please, before we get into cannabis, the significance of the Voting Rights Act on yesterday, and that same act allowed us, these wonderful residents, the great residents of this city of Detroit, to elect you into office. Can you briefly share your thoughts about the Voting Rights Act?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't born at that time. It was 10 years, 11 years prior to me being born, 10 years prior to me being born. So I'm just thankful to be in a position where I, one, am able to be elected and represent people, but even more importantly than that, I have the ability now to actually go out and vote for someone who can represent me. So I think that's extremely important. You have in history situations and around the world where the folks in power don't represent the individuals who they are supposedly coming up with the laws, regulations, and all these other different things, protections for, and it kind of skews sometimes their perception of the people that they serve being not from that community.
Yes.
So this gives us an opportunity to really play a role in shaping what our community looks like. Now, having the vote is important.
Yes.
But more importantly than that is exercising that right to vote. Thing that we don't do, we do it too frequently, too often. We fail. In 2016, there was a record number of people who went out and voted.
Yes.
Unfortunately, based upon census data, the black vote was down. And we know how critical 2016 was, and I think 2020 is even more critical.
Yes.
Because it really will define the soul of this country moving forward.
Yes.
We already have a deficit, but we just can't continue to go down that road. We'll never be a perfect nation, but we can continue to try it. And I think it's important for us to exercise that right to vote because that's our voice.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And we appreciate you being a champion for that. And see, I believe that citizens don't really realize the importance of having a representative that you have selected and elected actually live in the district in which they serve. A lot of folks yes, please.
I was actually against it when I was first elected. We were elected at large.
Yes.
I was a part of the first group of district council members, and I was against it because it felt like it would pressure from outside forces. And then we had the Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick catastrophe, and we had council members who were also indicted, going to prison. So you had folks who were saying, we need to just change their system.
Right.
And this wasn't necessarily an outcry from the community itself. It was from outside forces saying that the reason why there was corruption that was taking place is because there's no representative by district. So to me, I felt that was totally, totally incorrect.
Okay.
You hire someone, you elect someone who has certain personality issues prior to election. They're going to be exposed once they get elected. So it's not necessarily the district situation, but being in a district now gives me an opportunity to have more direct contact with the people I serve. I couldn't do that with the entire city, but with 18.8 square miles, which is still large, and 100,000 residents, still a large number, it's a lot more manageable than 140 square miles and 700,000 residents.
Yes.
So I like it a lot more.
I'm glad. I'm glad, and I know the residents have an appreciation for it. Because that's important. I mean, you found probably, and we all know, I mean, as a native Detroiter from Detroit, that it's easy when folks start off, I believe, with the idea of what government's supposed to look like. And then when they actually get into government, things change. But to be able to still be in that space and still be able to touch the individuals that directly elected and selected you, 100,000 individuals is no small feat. I mean, that's a huge, some Senate districts, representative state districts are that size. So absolutely, it is a charge. And I know that you were very conscious of that when you served as the chief sponsor for this marijuana ordinance for the city of Detroit. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was an issue when we first started going down the road of marijuana as a whole and potentially legalizing, well, just medical marijuana.
Yes.
I wasn't aware, and I tell people all the time, that wasn't the world that I lived in. I wasn't aware that you had businesses that were actually selling marijuana openly. And clearly against the law, you're not supposed to have a retail business that was set up. And we had at one point in time, we calculated more than 260 of those facilities within the city of Detroit. And there were like 40-something in District 1, the district I represent, alone, which is huge. Unfortunately, there were a number of minority, well, let me just say not say minority because I don't want to use coded language, black business owners, black dispensary owners that were operating just as illegally as others, but they ended up getting shut down and have not been able to recover based upon the fact that they didn't own the property. You know, they were leasing at the time, and they were also outside of the zoning, so it makes it even much more challenging. So it's a bigger issue for me trying to figure out the equality in this industry. The reason why it was important for us to put the brakes on what was going on is because there was no representation for the most part from Detroiters.
Right.
So you have folks from outside of the city coming in, and in my the way I look at it, it was almost as you were sucking the economic opportunities from Detroit and taking it elsewhere. And it happens in so many other industries. And this is one that was right. I mean, it's completely in its infancy. So this is a chance for us to get it right. The challenge that I have is that the state wouldn't allow us to put in some of those provisions that we wanted to do, and now we're starting to hear it, which is good. I just heard Attorney General Nessel was saying that she's now looking into trying to expunge the records, and then also identifying how to provide that equality within those municipalities that are more disparately affected by marijuana law.
Yes, and so I'm so happy that you mentioned that because that was the next segue I was going to go into. So now that Michigan has introduced this social equity, right? So they have identified some 19-plus communities, of course, Detroit being one of them, that is supposed to benefit from how this core group, this advisory group, has determined what the opportunity looked like. So, of course, if everyone looks in totality, if you meet the qualifications, it might be some 60+% that you would get off of these fees associated with the application process and the like for establishing a business within the industry. And then they have, of course, identified representatives that are supposed to come in to each one of the communities to be able to help those applicants identify resources and the like. And then, of course, to your point, I believe Illinois got it right. I believe that they are the best, one of the best social equity models thus far, where they are suggesting to expunge some 800,000 records. Right now, Michigan is looking at somewhere around 235,000. And so, you know, I believe that it's a start. I mean, for me, I can give you comparisons of everything across this country of what it looks like, but I believe it's a start of the conversation. But specifically for people of color in this industry, if you don't have the $500,000 for, say, for a dispensary, I don't believe that the percentages make that much of a difference. If you do have the $500,000, if you're going to give me 20% off, I don't believe that makes much of a difference. But that's the conversation that I can continue to have. That's just Colette talking. That's not the councilman talking. And so, yes, to your point, social equity is at stake here. And sir, when you have the feel and the reach that you have for the constituents, what kind of feedback have they given you?
Well, honestly, I mean, even those who are against recreational and medical marijuana, they still want to see the equity portion added. I mean, as I mentioned before, unfortunately, Detroit has been the area where people end up, a lot of folks end up having their fun and then leaving.
Yes.
And their fun may be economic, you know, it may lead from economic gain, so to speak, but if inside of the city of Detroit, but if the business owner where that person leaves their fun, entertainment, resource money is not a Detroiter, then that money doesn't circulate in our community. So just because the businesses are located in the community doesn't mean that we end up having an opportunity to benefit from it as a community. So we're looking at ways with the recreational marijuana ordinance that's coming in, how do we legally, working with the state legislation that allows us to, how do we strongly encourage all the way to demand some sort of community benefits for entities that are seeking to place marijuana location, cannabis businesses within our communities. There's a business that I was talking to yesterday, as a matter of fact. They're looking to have a dispense or a provisioning center, a grow facility, as well as the processing at this location, which is in a industrial area, but it's right across the street from a residential area.
Yes.
So this has been some consternation, and there's some folks who are in the neighborhood just flat out saying, no, I don't want it in our community, period.
Yes.
Then you have others who say, you know, I'd be okay with the growing because I don't know it's there, but I don't want the flow of customers up and down my residential street.
Right.
And then you have some who just say, you know what, it's no big deal, it's legal, we're moving in that direction. So we need to embrace this and also make sure that we do our best to try to get Detroiters in this business.
Yes.
I've got to listen to all those voices. And that's the challenge as a council member, especially someone who's coming up with legislation.
Yes.
It sometimes seems for those who are within the industry that I'm totally against the industry. I'm not. I mean, I'm all for individuals doing what they believe is right for their lives. Make the choice. The choice is yours.
Yes.
Especially if it's a quote-unquote legal choice, right?
Yes.
But we also have to make sure that we provide regulations that provide protections for people who live in the place where that business is located.
Yes.
And that's my job.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm quite familiar with the space that you are making reference to. So I definitely understand that. And I really want you all to understand where the Honorable Councilman is coming from, that he takes importance in understanding where legislation fits in. Legislation is everything, everyone. It's not just a conversation about it. It is what the law looks like that governs the impact of this industry on our lives. And I want you to know, I'm here today to say, and I'd love to work with you, Honorable Councilman, to introduce the other opportunities in the industry. Because everyone thinks that you just have to have, it's about a dispensary or a provisional center.
Right.
No, sir, you can have a transportation company. You can have a processing company for people of color. You can have a security company. You can have a real estate component. You can have a designated use space. And I believe that that's the beauty of where the social equity part comes in. And sir, maybe I'm making a plug, if you will. I happen to be the founder of, it's called CASE. It's the Cannabis Association for Social Equity. And so that is our charge then, to identify the spaces across this country, Detroit specific, where people of color have the opportunity to get into an industry, where the barriers of entry, everyone, to be able to get a transportation license, that's $6,000 in Detroit. Yeah. That's not $500,000 of liquid assets that you have to see. You know, a designated use license, you're looking at $1,000 in Detroit. There's help for you in those spaces to be able to thrive and be successful in that space. And so, but I know it starts with legislation, sir. It starts with legislation.
What you're doing, I mean, just right now.
Yeah.
This is another opportunity for individuals. I mean, I don't know how much you make on advertising or anything. That's none of my business. But, I mean, this is another way so you educate folks. I mean, there's nothing wrong with monetizing,
right.
Providing education, as long as you don't take advantage. You're not predatory.
Yes.
But there's so many opportunities outside of the dispensary.
Yes.
But when it comes to if you are in a situation where you're looking to have a brick and mortar,
right,
that's where zoning comes into play.
Yes.
So you have to be aware of it. You have to own the property.
Yes.
If you don't own the property, expect to pay way more for rent than you need to. And at any given time, even if you're not making if you're making a whole lot of money,
yes,
and you're doing some great work,
yes,
at any given time, that property owner can snatch that away from you.
So
it's important to own the property, and that's what I've been telling people right now. If there's any way, and this is not just with the cannabis industry, just period, land in Detroit.
Yes.
If you have the ability to purchase land in Detroit, whether it's commercial or residential, now is the time.
Yeah.
When you look around, you see folks doing it from every hue, color, a municipality in this world.
Yes.
They're coming in and they're doing it, but yet we, as Detroiters, don't appreciate what we already have in our backyard because we don't see what the possibilities of that space may be when others have. And part of it is because some of us don't travel. You know, like you said, you have the opportunity to go from place to place to place and see what works, what doesn't work, what is possible, what's not. But a lot of us don't see it.
Yes.
We see a vacant space, a vacant field, and we say it's a deficit.
Yes.
We don't have this. We don't have that. Others will look at this as an opportunity. It's a blank space that gives me a chance to create.
Yes.
And that's how we now have to start thinking when it comes to business, especially within this industry. We can't talk about or completely focus on what we can't do, what we don't have. What we have to look at is where are those spaces that are right for us to transform and make our own and even monetize our.
Yes. Absolutely. Sir, I have to tell you, and I'm just going to take a couple more minutes of your time. I just came back from a cannabis conference in San Jose, California. There were some 10,000 attendees. I did not come across 50 people of color. Let me tell you, and it was so startling that when you made contact with someone, they could have been across the convention center. We ran up to each other and hugged each other, and then looked at the name tag and said, hi, and then introduced each other. Hi, I'm Colette. I'm from Detroit. Oh, hi, Cliff, and great morning, Cliff, from Austin, Texas. Great morning, Alyssa, from St. Louis. I can tell you who the people that I met because there were so few of us. And sitting in this space specifically for social justice, where the majority of us convened, the president of the Minority Cannabis Business Association said, our problem is getting the word out. And I raised my hand and I was like, I'm here. And she said, you know, you're the only person of color here that has this format. And that is why I did create Cannabis TV, because I, for 3 or 4 years, have been following the industry, understood that this is a $1 billion industry as forecast. And as you said, sir, knew that leadership was so important, and there would be someone like you that came up and stood up to be able to talk about what the legislation looked like. But what good was it if the people weren't educated?
Absolutely.
So that's where we are, and I appreciate. So tell me, what do you think is next for cannabis in Michigan?
Well, I mean, I think trying to figure out what the social equity group is going to come up with, social equity program comes up is like very key.
Yes.
That's huge. Identifying where Attorney General Nessel is going to go. I mean, unfortunately, there's still a lot of big question marks. I mean, right now it's still there's so many different possibilities with the change in leadership in Lansing.
Yes.
It now gave us an opportunity to recalibrate the situation that we had going on,
yes.
Which was pretty much stalled or very staunchly one way. Now there's a possibility of some movement, but I don't know.
Right.
It really all depends on where our legislators, and this goes back to the importance of voting. Make sure you vote for those who support the ideals that you find are important to you.
Yes.
And it's not just about Republican or Democrat. This is about finding out who believes in what you believe in.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that you're going to find someone who's going to believe everything, always been 100% behind them.
Yes.
But, I mean, if this is an issue that's very important to you, now you have to figure out how to get your sentiment known to your legislator who ultimately will have a vote on this.
Yes. It's everything.
I think in Detroit where we have legislators who are all on the same page, but I don't know if it's the same thing with all of our suburban counterparts.
Right.
So we have a lot of people of color, and I'm just going to say it again, black folks who left Detroit, who now live in the suburbs, and they can't tell you who their legislators are. But if you can't tell me who your legislator is, then you can't tell me you're advocating for anything.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's the biggest challenge we have right now.
Yes.
I think in the industry, educating folks, whether you're talking about folks who are in the industry or outside of the industry, it's a huge opportunity, but it's also one that if we don't take advantage of it today, or at least begin to make bigger gains, we're always going to be behind. So when we talk about minority ownership in Michigan, especially in Metro Detroit, it's a little different.
Yes.
Because a lot of our facilities are owned by minorities.
Yes.
They're just not owned by black Detroiters.
Right.
And black Detroit, this is an 80% black city.
Yes.
So I think we've got to, again, be very intentional about the language in Detroit especially. So when we say minority, that's not a challenge in Detroit. Minority ownership. It's African-American ownership, which represents and reflects the demographic of the municipality. That's the biggest challenge we have right now.
Absolutely. I look forward to having you in the studio. I look forward to having conversations about putting together a workshop. You have an amazing team with you. They've been so helpful in connecting the dots for us. So I still appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you so much for your leadership. And are there any last words that you'd like to share with the audience?
No, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, I think this is important. Government always has to work with the community and with the industries that we're looking to affect, because we can't do it in a vacuum. We do it in a vacuum, we'll get it wrong.
Right.
We work together, then we have a possibility of getting it close to as right as possible. But I know doing it in a vacuum, we'll absolutely get it wrong. And that's what happened in the past with government, especially in this area. We've done it by ourselves and have gotten it completely wrong. This is a chance now for us to improve upon our mistakes of the past.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for your leadership. We all do, no matter if you're in District 1 or the citywide. So thank you, because we wouldn't have gotten here without you knowing the importance and speaking up, because I can imagine the conversations around your leadership in that. But we'll save that for another show. So thank you so much, Honorable Councilman James Tate. It has been a pleasure. Have an amazing day, and thank you.
You as well.
Okay.
Thank you now.
No problem. So everyone, you heard it. That was an amazing conversation with Honorable Councilman Tate. And leadership matters. Everybody, if you're not aware of what is going on, as he said, if you have elected officials, if you're electing people, and we're going to get there, because you all know that there were 3 communities that voted yesterday. They had a voice in this cannabis space, in the marijuana ordinance space. Of course, Highland Park, it was the village of Vanderbilt, and Crystal Lake. So we're going to talk about what that looks like. And I got another guest in the building. She is a mother. She's a community activist. She's a researcher. She's my friend. Angela Lugo-Thomas. She will be in after the break. I see we got a call. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go do a quick break, and then we're going to continue the conversation. Callers, don't go anywhere. We're going to get you when we come right back for more cannabis, discussing the business of cannabis. We'll be right back.
I'm the president of Strava Craft Coffee. We're a local specialty coffee roaster. We've been in business for a year and a half. We chose to celebrate the infusion of cannabis into some really fantastic coffee. The really great thing about Denver is that it's a community of innovators, of makers, of specialty foods, specialty experiences. And as we've moved into the cannabis community with our hemp-infused coffee, we've connected with members of this community that are extremely supportive. They believe in our vision, and they help connect us with resources. We're using a hemp-derived CBD oil to infuse into the beans, and it produces some really fantastic results for consumers. You can enjoy a couple cups of coffee and not worry about coffee jitters, and it's fantastic for alleviating anxiety as well. We roast all of our coffees here in Denver, Colorado. We do the infusions here as well, and then package up in 12-ounce bags of whole bean coffee. And we sell those at a couple cafes locally in town, and we do sell those online, and they can order right there, and we'll ship directly to their house. You can prepare it via French press or AeroPress, however you like to prepare your coffee at home.
Imagine the rare opportunity to be positioned in front of an industry that still has a product just like water every human being on the planet needs to maintain itself, but yet still in its infancy, virtually unknown to most of the world. An opportunity that until now has been unattainable for the masses. Our company is Wakana. We are Wakana, what you've imagined.
You're watching Detroit's own WHPR TV, Detroit Live.
Hi, this is Colette Ramsey. You can watch me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the WHPR TV Now app. Download our free app at WHPR TV Now.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern. TV 33 is moving to WHPS TV Channel 15.2. Make sure to rescan the channels on your TV. Then go to WHPS Channel 15.2 to pick up TV 33 and all of your favorite shows. The move is on, and we want you to move with us to WHPS Channel 15.2. You're watching WHPS TV, Detroit Live.
Good morning to you, rise and shine. If you are just tuning in to CanBiz, discussing the business of cannabis, great morning to you. I'm Colette Ramsey. I have the pleasure of being the host of this show, hostess. or however you want to call me, the facilitator of the cannabis conversation. I want to open this up with a quote. I was so excited that with Honorable Councilman, and please, y'all, if you missed it, you missed a treat. The Honorable Detroit City Councilman James Tate was on with us for the first part of the hour to discuss what Voting Rights Act looked like, the importance of that legislation, that historical legislation. Yesterday, we were voting about cannabis in this community, and then his leadership role in sponsoring the bill for the ordinance for initially putting structure to cannabis in the city of Detroit. Let me give us the opening quote from Lyndon B. Johnson. It was in 1965. The quote states, "The vote is the most powerful instrument ever devised by man for breaking down injustice and destroying the terrible laws which imprison men because they are different from other men." Yesterday, we had a chance to vote, everyone. There were 3 municipalities that had the opportunity to address marijuana cannabis ordinances: the city of Highland Park, the village of Vanderbilt, and Crystal Lake. With me this morning to sit and talk about the results from the city of Highland Park is our own community activist, researcher, my neighbor, my friend, the Angela Lugo Thomas. Great, amazing morning to you, Angela.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Good.
Good.
It's early.
It's early? Well, because you had a full night last night.
Yes.
You were on the ground, paying attention to the polls.
And we must all do that.
Paying attention to the numbers.
Absolutely.
So are you shocked about anything that happened on yesterday?
It was a fascinating experience to watch it unfold.
Very good.
Am I shocked? I'm relieved.
Nice.
That's what I would say.
That's a great word. You're
because
relieved.
let's just say.
Say it, Nancy. Angela, say it.
If we had not paid more attention as a community, I think a lot of people would be upset to know what this ordinance would have meant to our community.
Sure. And let us just recap this ordinance, everyone. If you didn't know, so Highland Park had an ordinance. The vote was no. Let me just say that. Let me everyone know. If you all didn't know, let me give you what I got, and if the numbers change, I can share that with you. But at 6 of 7 of the precincts reporting, the votes no for the Highland Park ordinance were at 506 votes. That was 56%. And yes was at 397 votes at 43%. Was that kind of close? Or
yeah, so these were, again, they're unofficial. Unofficial but final.
Okay,
and I have the yes vote for 457,
okay, so
and the no vote was 593.
Okay, so it was a change,
just a slight
50 to 60,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a resounding no. And everyone, what was proposed was 2 dispensaries.
Basically.
That's it. Let me just no micro businesses, no processing centers, nothing else. Nothing else of all the boxes you could check to establish viable businesses as a cohesive unit in a community. It was only for 2 at a designated space. And there was tons of literature, and of course, it all looked good.
It sounded good.
The promises of it looked good. Here was a piece of it. But you, the citizens, said no.
Thank you.
They said no.
Yes.
So everyone, while we're sitting on that note, we got a call. Let's go to the line. We want to make sure everyone's a part of the conversation. Great morning to you.
How you doing today?
Amazing, thank you. How are you?
All right. Well, great show, cannabis. Great co-host.
Yes, she is.
Topic. This is DJ, my international hip hop.
Yes.
There's a couple of things I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
I would like to ask before I make a comment.
Okay.
What is the opinion? Like, I just saw that Highland Park denied the opportunity. They voted against that proposal.
Yes.
So I would like to know your guest's opinion, her opinion for it, and for the city, like, together, what's y'all's opinion before I say my opinion?
Okay, sure.
I'm not understanding.
He wants to know
my personal opinion.
Yes,
because I wouldn't be able to.
Opinion
personal
about
opinion.
the vote, the no vote.
And then the opinion for what's best for the city, because.
Well, is it the opinion? Did you want her opinion about what the vote was, or what it was best for the city, or both?
No. I want to know her opinion, if she don't mind giving it to me. Then collectively, from the city, perspective.
Okay.
What
I
do
can
y'all
give
think
you.
about the voting results?
Thank you so much for your question, your comment. I can give you my personal opinion, but I wouldn't be able to speak for the city because I believe that the residents need to speak for themselves. But I was satisfied with the fact that it was voted down, only because this ordinance was not the ordinance that our city council was creating for our community. And in Highland Park, we believe that we should be in control of our own ordinances. And so for someone to bring a lawsuit against the city clerk to force this on the ballot was really what we took issue with. So that is why I was against it, and I just feel like the community spoke. And yes, there's probably going to be other proposals in the future, and so we'll see how this plays out. But I was very satisfied with how we voted yesterday.
Okay.
Nice. So she answered that.
Yeah. No. So now the thing is this: even though the proposal was brought about by somebody else, now objectively, because Highland Park sit on Woodward, okay, and all these surrounding communities, like for example, we used to the city of Detroit residents used to argue, well, how come all these dispensaries was on 8 Mile, right?
Yes.
Now, when all these dispensaries are on 8 Mile, it's a county on the other side of the street that don't allow not one medical marijuana dispensary.
Okay.
So, for a couple of years, there was businesses off of 8 Mile they just hit a bus. They were sitting right next to a county that didn't allow none of it. So county residents was coming into the city of Detroit to spend money.
Okay.
But that never was looked at it. But if you go to, it's a state line between Illinois and Indiana. It's a street just as big as mine.
Okay.
One side is Indiana, one side is Illinois. Plenty of Illinois residents would just cross the street to buy liquor to save on taxes. So I never understand why we in this community don't prosper like that, don't think like that, but all the other communities, they use our communities like that.
Okay.
So I'd like to know your opinion.
Well, let me jump in, right? So let me just jump in. And I believe the truth of the matter is the residents of this city did think like that. But the premise of the ordinance was that someone else identified that the city was going to have 2 dispensaries, that someone identified where those dispensaries were going to be, that those dispensaries weren't owned by people who were residents of this city, and so it would not have benefited this city.
Correct.
And so, at the end of the day, as residents of a city, I mean, we can pull up the other municipalities if you want to get an example, like the village of Vanderbilt or Crystal Lake. As a resident of that city, you have the option of creating your own ordinance. And if indeed someone comes in to suggest something different, you have the option to not agree with them.
Correct.
Because let me just tell you, as this was presented, I don't agree with it. There was no one that I knew who owned either one of those businesses. I believe that if you were trying to be fair and just, you would have created a plethora of options on this ordinance. For example, if you want to look at Crystal Lake, they denied Crystal Lake, but Crystal Lake's ordinance had for some 22 licenses for dispensaries, okay? So, it was a plethora of other business opportunities that the community said, no, we don't want all of that in our small space. But for Highland Park, for you to not say, yes, we want micro businesses, yes, we want a transportation arm, yes, we want a processing thing, that's cohesive legislation that would benefit everyone. And specifically, if the 2 businesses that were established in the ordinance aren't owned by black folk in the community, then you say you're going to bring all these jobs back. Well, we all know, if you know about a dispensary, the structure, you might have, especially in this type of municipality, you might have 3 employees.
Maybe.
You might have 2 bud tenders and a security guard. So, okay, that's 6 jobs that you say you might give to the people who live in this community, but you want to boast that that's thriving. And furthermore, it was disingenuous that you suggest it's going to bring in all these monies when the only thing suggested is that you paid the initial application fee and another fee which would round about to $5,000, and then it's just the regular tax money. That's it. Hey, Ma, you can't tell me that's not beneficial to anybody.
Not as well. At least many of
Not
us
to the
did not
people.
feel that way.
Yeah.
But I will also have to.
Let her add.
I'm sorry. Well, I would also like to add. I'm sorry.
Hold on, Emma. Let her add.
I want to add to that, you know, just because we said no for this particular Prop 1 does not mean that we're saying no to this idea of having this opportunity here in Highland Park.
Yes.
That's not what we're saying. We just said no to this Prop 1. So there are going to be others that come up, and we might say yes to those, but at least let us control, at least have some kind of say-so as to what it looks like in our own community where we live.
Yes.
And that's all we were asking for.
Yes, Emma.
Thank you. That was what would need to be verbalized.
Okay.
Because the city of Highland Park sits in the middle of Detroit.
Yes.
Now, Detroit residents right now are enjoying the new rules and the new concepts. But we don't hear that Highland Park has legally changed its laws and rules and regulations, whereas from going inside the city of Detroit, it's just like going into Highland Park. So the things you do in Detroit, you can do in Highland Park.
Okay.
I would like to see that, because Highland Park is it can become a destination.
Very true.
If it's based on that.
Yes.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Just like right now, I'm a Detroit resident. Okay, I don't know if I go into Highland Park, and Highland Park is going to treat me like how Detroit treat me. Meaning, from being a resident of a community, being a non-resident community, we still have these particular things going on all throughout the metropolitan Detroit area.
Sure.
We all know that.
Yes.
Okay?
Sure.
But right now, it's an opportunity for Highland Park to become a social setting for the residents of the city of Detroit and for the tourists of Detroit.
Well,
So,
guess what, A-Bomb? And that's what we want.
Yes, that's what
but
we want.
Okay.
Black.
So-
But let me say this much on that point, and I'm going to make sure I get the other callers in. But to the councilman's point as well, that black folk need to own it.
And
I get it.
and people who live
And
here.
people who
Yes.
live here
Yes.
need to own it.
Yes.
And yes, as the councilman said, other minorities,
Right.
because we know the plethora of them in Detroit
Yes.
and all over the other municipalities that own it. But there's what, 2 black folk in Detroit that own dispensaries, and they're partners in that? I mean, I know of one.
Right.
So come on now, y'all. Let's have the real conversation.
Correct.
Right. We're not talking about minority in that regard. We're talking about black folk.
Yes.
Black folk that own. We should be able to own a dispensary. We should be able to own the processing center. We should be able to own the transportation company. We should be able to own the security company. We should be able to own. You get where we're going with this? We should be able to own.
You should be able to own the weed bank.
All of it. You should be able to own all of it.
Yeah.
Not just create legislation for the other folks who then reap the benefit of minority. That's where leadership comes in. Hey, Ma, I appreciate you. I want to make sure I get
Thank
everybody
you.
in.
Yes.
So thank you
Thank
for
you. Everybody
bringing
have a
that
blessed day.
conversation
Okay,
up.
you too.
We appreciate that. And before we get to the next caller, and let's talk about the importance
Yes.
of leadership going forward, Angela, because it looks like they're going
Yes.
some city council things that are going to change, and well, the top 4 going on,
Right.
and then the top 2 for mayor. But that leadership still has to be able to address this now.
Correct. And, you know, one of the things that the council, the current council, I would have to say now,
Yes.
current to future, they want to be able to complete their ordinance before the end of the year.
Okay.
So they have they're working on a final draft, and as you know, they then have to read it, and then community input has to happen.
Yes.
So again, there's a process in place, and the city council is the legislative body of the city. They're
Yes.
supposed to do this. So we want to allow them the opportunity to do it, and to do it in a way that we are also involved in the process.
Yes.
And that was very important to us. I mean, we've already had 2 community meetings about this ordinance, And there were a lot of people who showed up and gave input, and they took that, and so they're working with the legal department and trying to make sure that they encompass as much of what we want to see into the ordinance. So it's important that we pay attention.
Yes.
We have to pay attention. I've learned that.
Yes.
We cannot be asleep at the wheel anymore. We have to be engaged in this process in order for it to feel like we are part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you all know that Highland Park is designated one of those 19 communities under this social equity support component, where they're going to be identified a representative from the state that's supposed to be able to come in, work with the government, work with the citizens to be able to help shape what opportunities look like within this industry. Right. So that will play a part, I believe, in what the development of the ordinance looks like.
And there's no deadline. I mean, the timetable, a lot of people have made reference to, oh, we're late to the game. We're not. We're not late to the game. Right. So I want people to stop saying that and stop repeating that, because we want to get it right. And it takes time to get some things right, and there's no sense in rushing it and then having to backtrack like, oh, we made a mistake here. Yes. And that's important too. So that's what I mean by the process. You have to let the process take its course. Yes. You know, trying to rush something through is not always the best thing.
And say it. And Highland Park can't be late if Vanderbilt just voted.
Crystal Lake.
If Crystal Lake just voted.
And there are other communities who
Tons of other communities. You all stop it. And when only 33 states are still buying in, we still have some almost 20 more. So we're not late, and we want the opportunity to reap the benefits, because it goes back to what Honorable Councilman said, that once legislation is in place, it's in place. And you have to be able, you have one chance to get it right in the start, and then it opens the door for what's going to come next. Let's go to the lines. Thanks for your patience. Great morning to you. Caller, you there?
Good morning.
Good morning,
Colette.
Good morning.
How are you?
Amazing. How are you, Kim?
I'm wonderful, thank you, and good morning to your guest as well.
Good morning.
Nice.
Good morning. Yes, I had a question. Because I need to know, is there some place to read about this ordinance more extensively? Because I think I heard a little bit about it before, a little bit here and a little bit there, and I never heard or saw extensively what this is all about.
Yes.
And so for a while, I was thinking, when I first heard you talk, I was thinking, oh, no, they voted it down. So I didn't understand what it was all about. So I'm wondering, is there some place to get more extensive information on what this ordinance covers, what it's all about?
Yes.
Because all I'm hearing is snippets of information here and snippets of information there.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, and I don't really live in Highland Park, but I would really like to understand what's going on. And then just one more thing before you go answer that. Colette, you had a guest on this show recently who spoke about the other cultures of Detroit and just around the country who don't wait. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm off course here, but they don't wait to be told it's okay to do something. And I'm hoping that in this case that's the case as well. I'm hoping that plans are going forward for whatever dispensaries or whatever grows need to go into place, but they don't wait to get permission or even licenses necessarily. I mean, they do it and then they go through the consequences of what may happen later.
So let's go. Let's go with the first question, Kim. So the first question, yes, you can go to the City of Highland Park's website. If you Google City of Highland Park, the link will come up, and then if you look on the home page, there is a link for marijuana ordinance. And it unfolds the ordinance in its entirety. And as Angela stated before, it is not that the citizens of the city, again, let's be clear, don't want the opportunity, Angela, correct?
That's correct.
It's just that the citizens and the leadership of the city want the opportunity to create the ordinance and then have input in it versus someone telling you this is what it's supposed to look like, and we're ultimately reaping the benefits, and then we're going to give you propaganda that would have you to believe something that's not true. Let me just tell you, those two dispensaries are not going to assist the city with demolishing buildings, hiring more police and fire, improving neighborhoods, reopening the library, and fixing the roads. stop, you all. Stop. That's not the only way that happens. Now, I'm going to really be creative with you right now, is if the city owns the dispensary. So if the city creates a space where the city owns a dispensary, and then those funds that are identified through the sale and the like, then are allocated for that. But that's really creative thinking. But, you know, you all can sit and talk to me about it. I could talk to you about it. That's what I know. And be creative in that.
Those promises that were made, and you know,
I've
heard a lot of them.
Yes.
They're not anywhere in that ordinance.
No.
So there's no legal contract that says that that's what they're going to do. So yeah, I could tell you anything if I want to get your vote.
I'd say the sky's falling, and you have to be ready right now.
Exactly.
Right, we're going to go to the moon. Yes. And to the second point, and I totally understand. I believe we support progressive thinking and progressive action, but now's the time that we can function in legislative space.
Correct.
So there's nothing now that you want to do in this industry that you cannot do, that license aren't there to be able to afford you to. So we don't have to be rogue anymore, right? So we don't have to do it and then ask for forgiveness later. We don't have to do that. Our problem is we're not creative enough to even want to jump out there to do something.
Right.
And we only think that the only thing we can do is a dispensary.
Right.
No! Okay. There's so much more you can do.
And we all have to be educated to learn what those opportunities are. And that's part of the process. That's part of this platform, as well as attending meetings and getting more engaged.
Yes.
Okay, well then can I ask one more question of your guest?
Sure.
Hopefully, I mean, I'm not sure because like I'm, you know, really new to all of this.
Yes.
But hopefully there are people putting growth space and building space into play right now, so that when a proper ordinance comes about, they're ready. Is that what's happening, or is that right?
And I will say, I told Colette this earlier, I'm a lay person, so I'm new to this too, so we're all kind of learning. But I will say this, there are people who have been paying attention to Highland Park and waiting for our ordinance to take effect so that they can bring their business here. So there are people already that have been looking. I mean, many of them showed up to the meeting, so I know that they're here, and they were here over the last few weeks as well. So there are people in line and ready whenever we get this ordinance in place to take advantage of the opportunity. So yes, I believe there are many people that are setting themselves up to be ready day one.
And I think more importantly to that, I'm imploring Highland Parkers to get yourself ready.
Yes.
Because that's still another part. Because then you'll have a problem. I mean, it's no different than those who created this proposed ordinance. They are outsiders. Highland Parker is always talking about who we are. You don't let it. I mean, they give me flux because I wasn't born in Highland Park. So at the end of the day, we're so proud to be Highland Parkers. So Highland Parkers, you get ready.
Yes.
You get your businesses together. You get the real estate together. You get where you want to be in this space together. Because I believe that if you don't take care of home first, to me, that's what an ordinance looks like.
Absolutely.
That you give opportunity to the first people who are residents of this city.
Right.
And then, after the residents, for example, Massachusetts, sadly enough, has 123 license permits sitting right there under social equity that people right now can take advantage of. Do you know how many people have applied?
5.
5.
I was still going to say less than 10.
5.
That's
so 5 out of 123. Massachusetts, don't worry, we're coming for you. So don't even worry about it. I already got plans for you. But that's what it's about. So we can sit and talk about it, but if we're not prepared for the opportunity, it's no different. Other people, so we'll create it to supposedly benefit the community, and then other people will still
take
reap the
advantage.
benefits of it.
Yes. And one of the things that we need to do almost as soon as possible is have workshops here in our community to educate people. Because like I said, I'm new to this. We need to be educated at what's available, how to go about the process. There's so much to learn. But we can do it because we are amazing.
Yes, we are amazing.
We are amazing in Highland Park.
Let me just tell you right now, in all the circles that you are in, whatever I can do, to lend my expertise.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
all you have to do is call
Absolutely,
me. And
I
I'm
know
putting
that.
together a cannabis 101 workshop too.
Oh,
I want
excellent.
to do that in the fourth quarter, so that's coming within the next couple of
Good.
months. So I
Okay.
look forward
That's
to
wonderful.
working with you on that.
Yes.
And so, Kim, we appreciate you.
Thank
Our
you.
time is up
Thank
this
you.
morning. Thank you so much. You know, you
Thanks
can
for
always
the
go to
information.
everyone cannabiz.tv. That's KANNABIZ.TV. That is a portal for every news, all the information that you need. It identifies the Senate's hearing that just had on banking. You know, that's what we do. I got to keep you educated.
Yes.
So our time is up this morning.
All right.
What would you like to share? Any parting words?
Well, just that, please, everyone in Highland Park, continue to be involved, get engaged, go to the council meetings, go to the community meetings. If there's the town hall, show up. We need to start to show up to our community events so that we can be a part of the process here. We have to stop thinking, oh, they'll take care, somebody else will handle that, somebody else will take it, oh, they're looking out for us. We have to make sure that what we want is what they're doing.
Amen.
Because they work for us.
That's right. That's right. We appreciate your leadership and your advocacy. And thank you. I'd love to have you back. You all, if you didn't know, her husband is Jamal Thomas, who has spent the last couple of weeks with us. So it's a family affair. And I look forward to getting the daughters on, too. We're going to work on that. Everyone, our time is up. I pray that you have been educated, enlightened, and empowered on today. I want to leave us with a quote that I think is so appropriate. The function of freedom is to free someone else. That is from our own Toni Morrison. Again, the function of freedom is to free someone else. We free you by giving you information and then to impact you and effectuate the positive change. Make your moments matter. Make today amazing. Until next time, see you then.
WHPR TV is now on Channel 90. Check out all of your favorite morning talk shows on Comcast Channel 90 every day from 7 a.m. to 12 noon, and watch us anytime, day or night, on all of your favorite devices. Download the WHPR TV Now app and take us with you wherever you go. WHPR TV is now on Comcast Channel 90 every day from 7 a.m. till noon. WHPR TV, a Watkins Broadcasting Company.
Hi, this is LaWanda.
This is R.J. Watkins.
Coming to you to bring you some information about the #1 detox in the nation, Lemon Burn. Lemon Burn helps to turn the fat into fit. It's for you, a happier, healthier you, because you know healthy is the new beautiful. An all-natural way to improve your health. It promotes a healthy digestive system, attacks and reduces belly fat, as well as gives you energy. Need to get yours today. Call 313-868-6612.
Don't forget to exercise and eat right.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Welcome you to the weekly broadcast of
as welfare rights. Hopefully you'll be able to call us this evening for some information, because we've got a few things to talk about, but we mostly tonight want to hear what is concerning you. My name is Maureen Taylor, and I work with the Michigan Welfare Rights Organization, and I'm here with my colleague Marion Kramer, who's going to again give an official welcome. So Marion, say hello.
Oh, it's so good to be here, Maureen, because yesterday it just rained and rained and rained. And at least we made it here without getting wet tonight. I want to remind people that you're listening to WHPR, and if you want to call in and participate, please call 313-868-0342, 868-0351, and 868-4336. When you call in, please have your pencil and paper with you. And if you, those of you that need a hearing aid, please have that on also. The website is www.tv33whpr.com. And looks like I feel like I just left here from the from the other night. Yeah. Well, not so much of a debate, because there's only one person that, one of the candidates that showed up, and that was Mayor Yap. Glenda McDonald, Councilwoman Glenda McDonald, had said that she couldn't come on that Friday, and they had the original date, and so they changed it to Monday to accommodate her. And then she said, after the fires were done and everything like that and put out, she said, I can't come on that day neither. Well, I mean, so, I think she missed out on a great deal of folks from Highland Park being able to ask them certain questions and stuff. But I'm so happy Mary Yap showed up and was willing not only to listen, Maureen, but to try to come to some conclusion even afterwards, how to take care of certain problems and what have you. Well, that's a wonderful thing. People showed up. This place was packed. That's wonderful. And the Watch place down at the new establishment in Highland Park by the City Hall, they said there was quite a few people down there. That's sort of like the overflow area. Yeah, that's what it was. And people came out. They came out. I was very proud of them. Well, folks have to have an opportunity when we can, to ask politicians questions. That's right. And then the other half of that is that we have to be able to tell politicians what it is that we want. Oftentimes, elected officials go in the room and they figure out what they think you need, and then they don't ask us. And so that was good. But I'm told, you said, and I heard some other folks say it was a very well-organized event, and there were statements made and promises and commitments made. What I like is the fact that WHPR opening up its doors to be able for the community to have a place to come and be able to exchange their problems that they might be experiencing in Highland Park, and what is the mayor's position on it. Should he be not only elected, he's been there for 2 terms, and what is his solution to stuff. And people seem to be very happy with the fact that there was no antagonism, that was there among the folks, and then they were able to ask those questions and move on. It was, we got to come together because of all the problems that we're facing, and we got to weed out, Maureen, those folks that are also in the past that have hurt the people in Highland Park and got us in a situation like this. But at the same time, we got to move forward because we know how these capitalists are moving in on us. I'm afraid so. And it looks like Ms. McDonald missed out on a great opportunity this year. For platform ideas and to reach out and let the community know a little bit more about it. But, things happen and, you get what you get. Yeah. So, and it was two, she wasn't here And I noticed on the leaflet that the city council president wasn't even here neither. And without saying, you know, why they did not show up. If you were afraid to face the people that you're supposed to be representing, I got a lot of problems with you as far as what are you going to do for us. You know, things happen and people can't always be where they think they should be. So, looks like you got a full measure of information from at least one candidate. Yeah. And that was a good thing. Mm-hmm. We talked about the question of low-income housing because, you know, welfare rights have been one of the ones out in the forefront along with the tenants council and everyone to fight for the fact that we still need low-income housing in the metropolitan area. And when I'm talking about not just Detroit, not just Highland Park, not just the metropolitan area means all the cities and townships connected cities to the in this particular zone or whatever. County and a whole lot of them. I heard it mentioned the other day, and this was a community out in California, and it wasn't Oakland. I forgot something in that area near where Ethel and folks live. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how affordable housing is disappearing. Yes, and you know, I've made at least 2 trips downtown to the Hood building, on the McNamara building where Hood is, to find Mr. Polsinelli, that's his name, Polsinelli. And didn't find anybody the first time, and the second time I went with Shaughnessy, who was his administrative assistant. Mm-hmm. And she told me clearly, Hood is getting out of the affordable housing business. In 5 years. And no. She said by 2020. Now, the reason she said that is because she's anticipating that Republicans are going to be in office after the election. See, that's what that was. And while I was in there, I had sweat rolling off my neck and scared to death because when I looked up, you didn't get a chance to see the crucifix and Martin Luther King or John F. Kennedy. You know, that who you saw is Trump, Ben Carson, and Mike Spence. And that's what you saw. I have to look at all. I got to get out of this room. But she's anticipating, and what she said was starting in 2020, the list of affordable housing, that's apartment buildings and townhouses and individual homes that belong to HUD right now. What they were going to start doing is selling those properties off to developers and private owners who will in turn have to maintain subsidized rents for a period of time, and then that number goes down and down and down and down every year until a market rate is what's going to be available. So when I asked her what is it that the people are going to do, and she said people will have to determine their own options. I want to write a book and make that a chapter. Determine your own options. We get to hit with that wheel. Carla, you're on the air. You're our first caller of the evening. Welcome to Ask Welfare Rights. You're on the air.
Well, good evening, ladies. How are you today?
I'm fine. Good evening.
And Mrs. Taylor and Mrs. Kramer, I want to tell both of you you're absolutely right about that, because I was down at Detroit Housing and on Orleans, East Orleans yesterday. And I was trying to get information, you know, because I'm that type of person. I'm going to go out and do my research before I say anything. But it was very interesting for this young lady. She slipped up and said something, and then she gave me this number. So, Miss Taylor, I gave you my number. Yes. You call me, I'll give you this number. And then I went down on East Jefferson, because one of my frat brothers, he's the director down there. So he was telling me some stuff too. I got some things I got to share with you. And it's terrible.
It is. It is.
I'm going to wait till maybe about February, and I'm going to see who is going to put their name in the race to run for state reps and state senators. And I want them to be able to go into these high schools and talk to these kids that's getting out of school. And I want to share this with you. To everyone that's listening out there, okay, to everyone who's out there listening, go to Detroit Trade Center, and you can go to their Facebook page, become their friend, and they will let you know every time they have a class. Everything. I was shocked when they invited me to be their Facebook friend the other day. Okay. So, a lot of things we don't even know. Every day of the week, lots of things we don't know. And so, I just want, again, Detroit Trade Center, go to their Facebook page, and ask them to become your friend, and you will find out every class that they have, and take these classes. Get a job, because as you notice, they ain't playing no more. All this free stuff is about to come be, it's going to be non-negotiable, and it ain't going to be out there anymore. You know that? It's right down there across from the Wonder Bread used to be at. Oh, yeah. All right, Paul, thank you very much. And other tidbits and pieces of information, call back, okay? Okay, all right, thank you. Yes. All right, now, thank you very much. Caller, sorry to keep you so long, and you are on the air.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm fine, sir. Good evening.
Real good. First of all, I just want to say, last week when I called about Wayne State giving free tuition.
Yes.
And then after I spoke and I got out there, I thought about that. I said, I hope they don't take our children from going to Wayne County Community College and all their black eyes and put in order. When I heard your response that, like you said, Wayne County black eyes had been here, that and which you have. I thought about that later. And I heard the Paul Patrick mention on that. And then another thing I wanted to say, I wonder why Representative John Conyers let the family request it. Now, his body wasn't in the state, building to be viewed by the other Congress and other people.
I think you know that he'll be lying in state tomorrow at the African American Museum, right? Okay, but I think that Charles and some of the other folks at the museum really wanted Congressman Conyers to be at the museum so that the family and friends in Detroit that know him and work with him for so long, we would have our first opportunity to pay our respects.
And two more things I'm saying real quick, and then I'm going to hang up.
Okay.
That NSO that's up there on 3rd and Mass,
yes.
I told people before they were going to move it. They're going to be up there on Mac and Gratiot where they're building the new building where the old police station used to be.
Are you about to say that the 3rd and Mac NSO is about to close?
Oh, they're going to move them out of there. I was looking at it on City Council yesterday, and I'll be over there on Mac when I'm coming down that way. I know people on the way. The building right where the old police station used to be on Mac. That's where Mac and Gratiot? Yes. They've already started building there.
It's precinct where Big Black used to be. Beating people up.
Right. That's where that's moving at, I don't know what they told them. I was looking at on City Council yesterday, too. And I passed where they started building all up in that area. And they're building some shelters like over there on Garfield and Mount Ellis where the different community people complaining.
Well, I tell you this, you and Marion and I sitting here talking about that's been a 20-25-year battle to get NSO off of that area, out of that area and off of that corner. So that all this gentrification and high rises and all of that, it was standing in the way. Marion and I go back in their building from when Tyrone Chapman was there, Ron Riggins, remember Riggins? Some of the early folks that were picking up veterans that were homeless and anybody else. So that's been a 20 or 25-year struggle to get them out of there, my goodness.
This cast of St. Peter's on Gratiot, I believe, are on the
over there on Jefferson, I believe. Never left. He does shelter, and he was on there, and they built up there on and Garfield. Now, one thing I'm saying that I'm glad to see Dr. Ivory, over Wayne County Community College. They got his name outside on the building. I passed it on the bus today, and I said, I see that, next to the new building that they're building. And I'm glad to see his name. Dr. Curtis Ivory, Dr. Curtis Ivory. It's just Curtis L. Ivory. Yeah, it's up there. I was just glancing at it when I first on my phone. I'm glad that's up there. Okay, one second. Hello. All right, thank you. All right, call back if you think of anything else. Thank you. To the past caller and caller before. Look, I don't know what it's going to take people in Detroit to get mad. Because they're just rolling right on over us and nobody's doing anything. People always asking us, what are we going to do? But look, we're doing every day. And we want to know, what are you going to do? But you sit back and you accept these representatives and go in there and just sign their name and vote for them. And then you get mad when everything is over with because you refuse to be out here with the rest of us. They should not be closing those historical places. If anything, they need to be fixing them up. Dan Gilbert is doing what the hell he want to do. The city council of Highland Park, they got some rabbits and stuff in their closets and what have you. And as well as the city council of Detroit, it's criminal what is going on, Marie. Criminal. So, and they sit back and say, they ain't going to let that happen. You wake up and you'll be just like California. Calling you on the air. Thank you for waiting and thank you for calling us. Welcome, Rachel, on the air. Thank you. I agree with you, Ms. Simon. And I appreciate everything that you ladies do. I really do. I thank you. Thank you. I have a question. Yes, please. I have a daughter that she don't receive anything from FIA. She works at Beaumont Hospital. Yes. But she's been shelved with her DTE. She applied for the LSP program, but they said no, that she makes too much. But she has to buy groceries, they cut her start, she has to pay her rent. Their auto is nothing. Any program that can help her with her DTE? Yes, ma'am. There's some special programs that DTE offers, and what she should do if you ask her to call welfare rates on Monday is November the 4th, and after 12 or 12:30. Okay, 12:30. Give us a call, and so we can get the information from her, and we can refer her to where she can get on a payment program that she can afford. And if you can't, if we're not there, we're generally in and out. But if you talk to anybody that answers their phone, they will take down the necessary information where they could start right away and get her in there and begin to deal with that particular situation. Now, remember, we always ask people that, you have to become a member of Michigan Welfare Rights, and they can explain all that to you. Okay, can you call your number out? And then one more thing. I talked to you last week, and you told me about the RAP program, that if you're 55 and over, you can apply for. Okay, I did call that Monday. I have an appointment for the 21st, but the only thing your appointment is for when? Monday the 21st. Okay, now you know that means that you are protected from shut-offs right now. Well, she told me no. She said there's no program that you can be on for a lifetime. No, not what she did. Okay, she was wrong. Yeah. I figured that. I know what you're talking about. She said we can put you on a program for 2 years, and then what we'll do is call you after that time over and have you reapply. Well, she was wrong, and once you get there on your date, you can ask her about that again. She was wrong. And two, call welfare rights back after once you go in too and give a report to one of the people that answers the phone also. All right, here's the number. We'll tell you up front. The number is 964. 964-0618. There you go. Give us a call on Monday. And let us invite you to listen in further because we have a place for people to come tomorrow. Well, don't tell me that yet because you're not hanging up. Stay on the line. Stay on the line. Until later. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, caller. Okay. Caller, you are on the air. Sorry to keep you waiting, and you are on the air.
Hey, beautiful ladies.
Hello.
I got y'all on one of my TVs, but I can't get you on that. But that's all right. I got that.
50% sometimes is pretty good. Half is all right.
Sometimes you feel like it, sometimes they don't. There is a separate political and legal framework that shields these cops from tax purchase and gives them special rights when defending themselves. And the way I look at that, there is a separate political and legal framework that continues to commit genocide economically, educationally, in causes participation as well. It took me to listen to Byron, what's his name, Byron Allen. He was killing it in this interview. He said that he went to Obama, because he said he'd been supporting him since he was a student. And he told him when he got into the presidency, if you're going to bail these states out for, what, $700 billion, he said, I'm going to give you some campaign money or support, and I'm asking like everybody else is asking, you need to do an audit on these states and make sure that they're giving money to blacks, not minorities, because y'all know minorities is now women and gays. Okay, white women and gays. So he asked him to do that, and there was something else he asked him, but I can't remember what it was. But he was speaking on how there's economic genocide going on towards black people. We know it's been going on forever because it's presently and its history repeating. Because, you know, when we had the Paradise Valleys and all the other communities, they did what they did, and nobody went to jail, and they brought it up presently, and now they're making it all a legal standard that they can do what they do to continue to keep their foot on you.
Well, let me ask you a question.
And continue to fight.
Yeah, now let me ask you a question. And man and I think we consider you a deep thinker, one that analyzes situations. Now, do you know who Colin Powell is?
Yeah.
Where Colin Powell lives, they probably have a CVS in his neighborhood. And Colin Powell does not drive a Chevrolet. And he does not get shut-off notices. And, you know, there is a class difference. Even though it might appear as if everything boils down to the basis of color. I would ask you as a superior intellectual to look deeper and go to Fortune 500 and look at that list and look at the number of men who are white, men who are European, men who are Asian, men who are African, and look at that list. And I would say to you that even though this question of race is a tool that has been so successful, I think we need to dig deeper in terms of who the enemy is.
Exactly. Well, in my observation, it's not only a race war, it's a class war.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you understand,
in order for those
You have to keep the foot on the next set of half hours.
That's right. To soak up and to keep all the resources and let the rest of us, we got to swim or drown.
Let me say this to you. In the mid to late 70s, they were between 500 and 600,000 hourly General Motors workers, okay? 500 to 600,000 hourly General Motors workers spread out all over the country. The strike that just ended dealt with 46,000 hourly General Motors workers across the country. This was the first time in the history of the UAW where they insisted that every General Motors plant be struck. So we've gone from 600,000 to 46,000. I did the math already. 10 out of 11 workers have been replaced by either seniority or technology. And that 1 out of 11 that is left, they're able to produce 14.5 times the number of cars that the 600,000 produced. So I need you to feel those numbers. 600,000, 46,000, 3 plants closed. Now here we got 55,000 Ford workers across the nation. And Ford used to come in at 100,000 in one plant. That was a demo run. 100,000 workers just at that one plant. There are 55,000 Ford hourly workers left in America. So people need to pay attention. It used to be, I don't know how many, I didn't look this one up, how many teachers were there. And now how many teachers are there today? They do not, like Mary says, they do not need us anymore. They don't need us. So you don't have to be a class, you don't have to teach kids. Put that computer program in the slot. And that's how you learn your other language.
The other thing, Maureen, I was talking to Steve this morning, and he's always been a very respectful teacher in Oakland, California. Very good teacher. He was in the civil rights movement with me, and we had a great deal of respect for him. He retired several years ago. And I said, what are you doing now, Steve? He said, I'm still volunteering, going to the schools, because the teachers that they have there now are barely getting paid, if they are getting paid. And they don't know how, and there's no money for different programs and stuff like that. So I go volunteer and try to help out, on my own, and let them know we can survive a lot of this, but we can survive it, but at the same time, who is the enemy? You know, who is the enemy? The system, that 9% that's controlling the system.
There you go.
Systematically, automatically got it on automatic pilot.
And then you look at
the clean the slots. They drain the slots. With the slots, they drain it.
With the slots, you're right. But you tell people, one person told me the other night, she said, I tried to talk to some of the seniors in some of the buildings and tell them, look, they're going to be closing these buildings up.
They are.
And we need to get, and that's some need to get ready for that and see what we're going to do. And this senior tried to argue her down. They would never do that. I never let that happen. They're not going to do that to us. I say, well, the next time you see her, probably give her a chair or something like that and see how long she's going to be sitting in that chair. We got a lot of work to do.
They did to the same thing to those seniors down there on Griswold. They were talking about that and all that.
Oh, yes.
Somebody ain't going to do it. And Gilbert put them out in the wintertime.
Yes.
Put them out in less than 30 days. They had to go in the cold.
have to talk big and bad, but what you need to do is just, like you say, y'all need to strategize your next move. So we playing that checker. With that guy used to say, we still playing checkers, and they're playing chess all over our heads. Yes. Until we understand what ownership and control is, they will continue to control us. We're going to have to learn us some high tech and some technology and strategies and everything. And who the enemy is. The movement. Because it is crazy, man. It's like worse than Twilight Zone. But we believe everything you're saying. We are on your page. We got some dark days coming. We got some dark days coming. You know, I've told Mary several times, I'm giving up. And what I mean is, I can't keep telling people that the light that's coming toward you is not the light. It's the locomotive coming to run your city ass down. Yes, indeed. You know, I can't keep telling people the same thing over again. So I'm going to let them stay on that track. And you know, we going to high ground. You don't want to go with us? Okay. No, that's right. What you say, when they go low, we go high. And higher, you know. I'm talking about that there's trillions of dollars in government. Trillions, yes. Trillions of dollars. The trillions of dollars in government representation. But see, we ain't supposed to know that. Trillions of dollars. That's right. No one should be without a house, a home, or anything in the United States of North America. When you keep your pen and paper handy, because in about 2 minutes, we're going to tell everybody about this big event that we're involved with tomorrow, okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of it. Thank you. So, all right, man, let's talk about 5 years ago. The United Nations, after several months of negotiations, set Leilani Farha and Katerina de Albuquerque set 2 special rapporteurs. Good women. And Leilani is the rapporteur for affordable housing, and Katerina was the rapporteur for the right to water and sanitation. Brilliant attorneys and everything. So these women came to Detroit. It's been 5 years, and we're honoring and celebrating the 5th year that they came to Detroit. And tomorrow, we will be at Wayne County Community College, not the downtown branch. We will be in the Northwest Campus. And the Northwest Campus is right on the corner of Southfield Street, Southfield, and West Outer Drive. Right on the corner, Southfield and West Outer Drive. The actual address is 8200 West Outer Drive. And the great big shopping mall is on one side of Southfield where the Henry Ford satellite clinic is. Great clinic right there. And a big old shopping mall and whatnot. AAA is still in there. Yeah, they can come up on if you coming off the expressway. I just want to put this in. Off the expressway, you could and you have which one? Southfield. Yeah, okay. And go on north. You can come up at 6 Mile and stay on the service drive till you get to Outer Drive. And just turn left and then go right to the campus and tell them where you're going. And that is to be able to participate in the conference and celebration of the people that was in the building. Okay, it's in the Welcome Center. Okay, so the entrance is off of West Outer Drive, and the security guard will be there. And the event starts at 2 o'clock. We suggest you start being there close to 1:30. Food and snacks that we're going to provide. Everybody knows that's what we do. And the event starts at 2, and it'll be over at 4. And man, the video that the United Nations filmed while they were here, it's a short one, and we're going to show that tomorrow. We're going to show that video. And we got a couple of people speaking. Alice Jennings will be there. And Alice is going to be bringing people up to date on some legal things that are going on connected to water and water shutoffs. And Marilyn Malone is going to be there to talk a little bit about foreclosures. And I really want Marilyn to say something about this affordable housing nightmare that we're all getting into, because you cannot find affordable housing in Detroit hardly anywhere. So, again, tomorrow, 2 o'clock, if you're available, and I'll send a big message out to Kellen Baker, and her crew, and a whole bunch of other folks. Ask me to come by and celebrate with us. It's been 5 years since we were able to get the United Nations to come and talk about water and water issues, water shutoffs, and water poisonings. And at that time, we were still talking about Flint being poisoned. And little did we know that the poisoning went on to Highland Park and went on to schools in Detroit. And there's something going on with you know what I've noticed? They don't say boil water alerts anymore. You see, because we learned that if you boil the water, it makes it worse. It concentrates whatever it is that's in there. So tomorrow, 8200 West Island Drive, 2 o'clock, we'll be done by 4. And then the other thing, man, is about John Connors. Okay, a lot of things that John Connors is noted for. And, of course, the Martin Luther King holiday. And, a lot of really great things. He pushed and never gave up. And a lot of big things that were national in nature. But a lot of people, I don't know if you looked at the welfare rights webpage yet. Did you see that? And one of the things that he did that nobody knows but welfare rights is when we were trying to get the United Nations to come to Detroit. That's when I first realized that I didn't know that an elected official has to make the official invitation, because these are quote foreigners, and they have to have an invitation and a letter. And we took that straight to Congressman Connors, and the next day he had the letter ready. And he sent his copy, and we sent ours. And he was a great part of getting the United Nations in. And people don't know that. He participated one year. And he participated at the event. When we were at Wayne County Community College, when we first brought them in, we had Congressman Connors there. I remember, I don't know how many times, and it did come up as people were reflecting on his life and times, how many times he'd been to Central, United Methodist Church, quite often. And Ed Rowe would have events of some sort, and call Congressman Connors, and he would just show up, Johnny on the spot. And well, I'll tell you one thing, when we got arrested over in public housing, when we took over Jeffrey's public housing, and we was put in jail, the phone was back that they took us over to Southwest Detroit. And there was a payphone in the room where they had detained us in. And Reverend Roy and the rest of us started calling Congressman John Conyers. And so he said, well, where are you guys? We said, we're in jail. And we took Southwest Detroit, and we told him, gave him the information. Now get on over here and help us to get out. He showed up. And began to make sure, because some of our attorneys had made it there also, to make sure that we not only was free, but not injured, and stayed there until the last person was okay to go. And see, it's those little bitty stories like that. A lot of people don't know anything about. I can recall students needing a letter to get to, this one student wanted a letter to get into the Air Force, and his grades were not that good. And I talked to the student, are you sure you want to go to the Air Force? Of all places. And he said that had been his life's desire. Mm-hmm. And his grades were So I contacted John Conyers, seen the facts. Here's the information I need. Congressman Conyers said he had the young man call the office. He did, gave the information. A couple weeks later, when I saw this dude again, he had the letter in the envelope that said Congressman John Conyers. He had that. Took it down to the recruiting station. That's when they were on the recruiting station, Library Street. Took it down there and was allowed to join the Air Force. I spent a number of years. I was able to track him for 3 or 4 years, and he went through Air Force Academy, graduated with honors. I remember that. I don't, he moved, he got married to another young lady who was in the Air Force, and they both moved someplace else, but all things like that Congressman Conyers. I'll never forget. I was so helpful. When I used to have to go to D.C. so much, and I was sitting out in his office, way back, in the office, way back, about to take a nap. And I was there. He was, since I've been walking all over D.C., and I looked, and he was in his office, and I went there and sat down, and I said, "Is it okay for me to sit here?" He said, "Go on." I said, "Look like you having a good time. You eating a lunch." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, go on, and I might have to take a nap." But the thing about it is, not all the time that, we got along. No, not all the time, but most of the time he showed up for all of us. And, I agree with the early caller. Once they take him from here, they need to take him to D.C. His main life was spent there in D.C. representing our interests. Well, it could be that after the funeral, I don't know, I haven't heard about anything else. I haven't either. That's the Great Grace Home store, 4,000 people. I'm sure there'll be 14,000 trying to get in there. And it might be that he's going someplace else, but after a while, after the spirit comes and gets you, look, John Conyers had been in office since the 60s. When I came here from the Civil Rights Movement and went to one of the very first meetings that people were trying to get him to talk about the need for him to become a representative. That place was packed. I was very impressed by that. And, he's been there all the time. And, and the only way they could remove him is to bring up some of the nonsense. And, I support my sisters and what have you. But at the same time, and then I don't, on the other hand, agree with no man putting their hands on no women if they should not be touching no women, and the women say, no, you need to back up. But look how they treated him compared to whether they have treated those Anglo-Saxon men that have been accused of the worse stuff than what he has done. So, but people start standing up and stop just, Marina, I get to the point now at home and stuff like that, and people be calling me about it. I just get to the point, I said, what's the use? What is the use? Y'all call welfare rights, and we be willing and waiting to do for y'all. But once you stop, you act like we're a welfare office or something, because we're not. We're not. How about House Bill 676? That's right, he came to us. Early ones that talked about Medicare for all. That's right. And there should be a plan, a health care plan, that the government pays for, just like Medicare for seniors now. He was one of the early ones. That's right. We began hardly, nobody signed on to it. Every year you would introduce it, never got tired of it. And it became, it took workers, General Baker and them, to start a group with retirees to get it out. And they still going on, still working on that, still doing it. So I'll tell one more story, a small story, where called me and said, listen, we have to do a little bit more about these water shutoffs. Well, the Black Caucus is having a meeting in Washington, D.C. I want you to get on the plane. I'm going to have somebody from my office pick you up at the airport. And I want you to come to the Black Caucus because I need you to talk to some of the members of the Black Caucus about this water fight. I don't know. I'm busy. You ain't that busy. Get on the plane. I'll make the arrangements. All right. So I go there and I'm sitting in the airport in D.C. And I'm calling the people I'm supposed to call. I'm looking for them. They're looking for me. We all in the airport can't find each other. Took an hour or so. Finally found me, and we went on over to where the Black Caucus event was being held. And Congressman Conyers had already set up 3 or 4 caucus meetings. I didn't have a chance to go to the bathroom. I went in there. Here's where you're supposed to be 15 minutes ago. You're late. Go down there. You know, so that was it. You know, so all around, and I went to every caucus meeting, and I had enough material in my little bag and whatnot, and I talked at every Black Caucus meeting there was. I talked at every Spanish caucus meeting that he had set up. I talked to every one of them, and told people in detail about this water issue, and he had set all of this up well in advance so that we would be able to share as much information as possible. Just a minute. And the same thing is that the Office of Organization, of the government called and said that they were holding a hearing. And this hearing was about Clinton's welfare reform. And what happened? What happened was I called Congressman Conyers. He didn't know nothing about it. But once I got there, he made sure that I was accommodated. But, and that he was in full support about what we would come up with. And I had never heard of that section of the government. I'll call you on this. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for calling us welfare rights. One day I had to call back John Conyers. I remember bumping heads with him with a couple of times because he would come to the meeting and he would come to the fight and he would walk with us. Yes. Talk with us. He was against that emergency management lobby. Yes. He was for reparations for all the stuff that they stealing and they still stealing. And when people sit around and talk about all this free stuff about to be gone, people look down on poor people not realizing that the conditions are made through the draconian policies. They are stealing your tax money every day, and they're telling you that they don't have a budget to fix your schools, your plumbing, and nothing else, and what kind of services. And they're stealing your money. And so when you say free stuff, you know who's free? It's free to steal everything from the people and cause man-made property and then turn around and make it legalized for the criminals to steal everything you got in your life and blame the victim that's been victimized by legal thieves. I'm sorry, I just get so upset about the situation, but, folks be looking down on the wrong person. Y'all need to be looking up at the ones that staying up because your pain is their gain. And I thought nothing else to say. Good night. We'll see you. Thank you. All right, so, Congressman Conyers is going to be at the African American Museum tomorrow, Saturday, from 10 until 2. And I imagine there'll be the big sympathy card or whatever, maybe not, I don't know. And then he'll be lying at the African Museum again on Sunday from 12 to 5 on Sunday after church. And I expect to stand in line. And that's what I'm going to see. See if people are going to come out. Doesn't matter if it rains, doesn't matter if it's cold, all that's going to happen is November. But we're talking about the opportunity to pay your respects to a giant. So here we done lost Elijah Cummings a week or so ago. And now here's this one. And you know how they say this now we got to send Congressman Conyers back. And we won't have another Congressman Conyers for a very long time.
It doesn't, yeah, that's right.
Long time. So, it was something else, and I've forgotten what it was.
Just make sure that you're out there tomorrow, because on Sunday, paying your respects. You know, you show up like you did for Aretha. Show up like you did for when what's her name? That didn't say something. That's my brain. But Rosa Parks and all, you know, and give him the respect that we gave the rest of our heroes and sheroes.
Yeah, yeah. So, Saturday, again, you know, we will be at Wayne County Community College in Alabama, Southfield. And that's where we're going to be tomorrow from 2 to 4. So we will not be at the Saturday event, but we will be there on Sunday between 12 and 5. And I have it on good authority, man. And I'm not sure what day, but Richard Harrison and Miss Elizabeth, they're going to come one of those days. And then we're stand in line, because Richard was very much to say his goodbyes to the Congressman Conyers. And, you know, Lord Richard, he's going to bundle up and put on his neck scarf and everything and come on down to the African American Museum. But I expect it to be, you know, quite an event, and it should be. We have to send back one of our own. And that's a good thing. Now, the other thing I thought we were just about to end our broadcast on, and you showed me the obituary. And we talked a little bit about this last week and week before last. Howard King. And I talked to Ms. Kim earlier today about a separate issue. But the Barnabas Institute, the Barnabas Youth Center, that was responsive, if it could be seen. You know, I'm turning on the backside. That is so, yeah, turn it that way, yeah. Lean it, you each go and talk. Just go and get it aside. Lean it back your direction. Like this. No, it's still side. All right, we 3 minutes, okay. What a great picture of Howard. And did you go? You got the film. Okay, and Stan King. Yeah, but that place was Stan. I know, yeah, but the number of men and the number of women that Howard and Stan have produced over the years, you know, my own son who, you know, didn't always have a positive role model as a man in his life. And by the time he got over to Howard and Stan, he got a chance to see these what real men look like. And to this day, you know, the powerful and some of those traits and some of the things that he learned, how to be gentle and how to be kind and how to be analytical. And I know he just told us 3 minutes. So I see my fans back there. You know, and how the boss still laughs when they were invited this and somebody would say, hey, Mary, I got a job for you. Trash detail or whatever it was, you know. So, you know, just mention Howard's name one more time in passing. And I was thinking today, man, about Leah King in person. We have to send her back. And Ms. Flo Clemens is recovering. And we were glad of that. And then Kevin Tatum, we have to send him back. It probably has been a tough 2 or 3 weeks on welfare rights for some of the folks we brought in and some of the folks we had to send back. So, Mary, you have about 45 seconds to say goodnight. Well, I guess it's going to be like this. See you next Friday, and good night. And I hope that a lot of you start getting active. All right, and I'll end by saying, don't forget you are invited to Wayne County Community College tomorrow, the Northwest Campus and Outer Drive and Southfield Road, 2 o'clock, where we're going to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the visit of the United Nations, coming here to check out water issues and whatnot. And on Sunday, 11 family hours at 10:30. But, you know, the lines to get into that facility are going to be wrapped around and around and around. So as we sign off tonight, some of you will see on Sunday, others of you we might see on Monday, and if that doesn't happen, then we will see you when we see you. All right, really quick, guys, we'll see you soon, and goodbye till we see you again.
Complete Victory Fitness, 23120 Coolidge Highway in Oak Park, Michigan. Trainer Al is the owner and one of the trainers at the gym. Join a fitness community studio that is passionate, determined, and supportive. Whether you're here for a day or committed to years, we've got exactly what you need. Good, clean, safe environment, ultimate memberships,